Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. In today's video, we're going to compare all of the different noise reduction applications that I own to one another. Those noise reduction applications are Luminar Neo's Noiseless Raw, Topaz Labs Photo AI, On1's NoNoise AI 2024, DxO's PureRAW 4, and Lightroom's built-in noise reduction, Denoise. Now, all of these applications work as standalone apps. But in today's video, I'm going to be using all of them as a Lightroom plugin only because it's easier to A/B the results from within Lightroom. Also, this is where it gets a little tricky. I found that I could have an app do a fantastic job on a RAW file from a specific camera, but that same app does a horrible job on a RAW file taken with a different camera. So what I've done is before I started this video, I took a number of different RAW files from different cameras and ran them through all 5 apps. For example, I used to own a Fujifilm X-T4, and I took this RAW file taken with that Fujifilm X-T4 and I sent it to all 5 applications. You could see the results are in the film strip. I also used to own a Sony a7R IV, so I took this RAW file and sent it to all 5 apps. And I currently own a Nikon Z7 II, and I took this RAW file and sent it to all 5 apps, and there are the results. In the description below this video, I'll have a link to my website, and you could download all of these RAW files and look at them yourself on your computer to see which one you think did the best job. So, for example, if you own a Sony camera, you may want to look at the Sony files and put more weight on those than maybe the Fuji files, and so on. Now, in today's video, I have this RAW file that was taken with a Ricoh GR3X. We're going to send this to all of the different applications that I own, so you could see how I work with the different apps. Now, let's send this to Lightroom's built-in noise reduction first. So I'm going to go over to the Develop module, and I'm in the Detail tab. You can see I have sharpening all the way down, and I have manual luminance and color noise reduction all the way down. I did that for all of the files, so we're all starting from the same point, a totally unedited RAW file. And we're going to click on the Denoise button. Now, this is where I kind of discovered that some applications do not do a good job on specific RAW files. Specifically, Lightroom does a horrible job on Ricoh RAW files. It really is bad. And you'll notice when we're done that the other apps do a better job on Ricoh RAW files. So what I'll do is I zoom out, usually like by clicking that little minus magnifier right there. And then I'll zoom into an area that I know has a lot of noise, like right here. Now you'll notice the only adjustment we have when we use Lightroom's built-in Denoise noise reduction is an amount slider, and I already have it at 100. And you can see there's still an exceptional amount of noise there. But that's the best we could do, so we'll click Enhance. Now in the top left-hand corner, you'll see there's a progress bar. So all these apps are non-destructive applications. They're not going to touch the original RAW file. You'll be able to save a file that will have the noise reduced in it. In this case, it's going to save another DNG file. And what I'll do is I'll rename all these files so we could keep everything straight, so you know which app is for what file, or what file was done in which app, or you know what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, right here is the enhanced noise reduction. Now, I'm going to change the name on this file. To do that in Lightroom, you have to be in the Library module and then just hit the F2 key and you could change the name. And there, I already have Lightroom there. So we're going to just call this Lightroom. So this is the Lightroom noise reduced file. Now let's go back to the original Ricoh RAW file, and I'll compare these at the end. So we're not going to take the time to compare them right now. So this is the original RAW file from the camera. Next, we're going to send this into Luminar Neo. To send this to Luminar Neo, go up to File, down to Plugin Extras, and then over and down to Open in Luminar Neo, and we'll click right there. Now, this will take this RAW file and open it up into Luminar Neo. Once you're open in Luminar Neo, you go over to the Edit panel, and you'll notice on the right-hand side, if you have the extension, you'll have Noiseless Raw extension right here. Now, it is an extension, so if you just purchase Luminar Neo without any of the extensions, you won't have Noiseless Raw. It costs extra. Now, it's recommending that I use the high adjustment, so I'll click on high. Now, my methodology for this was to use the recommended settings, but then I tried to reduce noise as much as possible without sacrificing sharpness. Now, some of these applications will also sharpen. I didn't do that, so I didn't want to add sharpening because we're not comparing the sharpening. Maybe that'd be for another video, but I'm not comparing how well these apps sharpen an image. I'm just comparing how well these apps reduce noise in an image. So, with that said, with just the high recommended adjustment, it put luminosity denoise at 50, color denoise at 50, details at 50, sharpness at 30. It's always going to be like that. One thing I noticed with Luminar Neo's Noiseless Raw is now, let's say, because there's still noise up in here, if I move this to the right to 100, it doesn't update. And even if you zoom out and zoom in, it really doesn't update. So you're kind of like, you're not sure, right? You don't know if it really did remove the noise. I don't see any color noise at all, so I think color denoise at 50 is fine. Now, the thing is with details and sharpness in other similar sliders in the other apps, a lot of times you'll start to reintroduce noise if you start moving these sliders to the right to try to regain some detail. You'll sacrifice some of the noise reduction. So I'm just going to leave this at the default position. I do have luminosity denoise all the way at 100 because there is still quite a bit of noise here, and I'll click apply. Now, one thing where Luminar Neo's Noiseless Raw is different than the other apps is you don't get a RAW file back. You'll get a TIFF file. So that is kind of a pain in the neck. You can see up here it says .tiff. Now I'm going to rename this. I am in the library module, so I'll just go to F2 and we'll call this Luminar Neo. Okay, and we'll click OK. So that is probably a fault or a downside of Luminar Neo's Noiseless Raw is it won't return a RAW file when you're working with it as a Lightroom Classic plugin. All right. So we'll go back to the original RAW file. And our next app we'll use is On1's NoNoise AI 2024. And again, to send this image to On1's NoNoise AI 2024, go to File, down to Plugin Extras. And then if I could find it in my humongous list of stuff here, there it is, On1 NoNoise AI 2024. We'll click on that. You'll get this dialog box. Now, because this is a totally unedited RAW file, it doesn't matter if I edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments or I just edit a copy. It'll both get, or the same exact file will go to NoNoise AI. So I'll just keep it on edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. We want to preserve our RAW format, so I'm going to change this to DNG, and I'll just keep the default settings there and click OK. So again, it's going to create a new DNG file, so it is non-destructive like all the other apps. And this app has the option to use TechSharp AI. Now again, I'm not going to use TechSharp AI because it's not comparable to, let's say, Lightroom, because there was no AI sharpening in Lightroom. So I want to try to compare apples to apples, orange to oranges as much as possible. So with auto on, it has luminance at 100, enhanced detail at 50, color at 100, and then micro sharpening, which isn't affected by auto, I just have at 100 there. So we'll go to the right here, and you can see there's a considerable amount of noise. And as I move this to left, you can see that it got rid of the noise pretty well, and it really didn't soften the image. So it looks pretty good. I just like these numbers right out of the box. I think we're fine. So we'll click the little check mark. And now it will create a new DNG file and then put that in the collection that I have in Lightroom Classic. And again, I'll rename it to Photo, or to NoNoise, get so confused, NoNoise AI 2024. Okay, so this is the original RAW file. There's the Lightroom, there is Luminar Neo, and there is the new RAW file. See, it just put -2 at the end. So this is the one that has the noise reduced. You could see zoom in. There is some artifacts there, but we'll get into that once we start comparing. We are still in the library module, so we'll go to F2, and I'm going to call this NoNoise AI. It's 2024. I'm just going to put 4. Okay. And click OK. All right. Now, our fourth app we're going to use is Topaz Labs Photo AI. Now, I had some debate in my mind about whether or not to use Denoise AI or Photo AI, but Topaz Labs kind of made up my mind for me, as they've announced that they're no longer going to update Denoise AI. Instead, they're going to be updating Photo AI only. So Denoise AI is kind of dead on the shelf. So I'm not going to use Denoise AI at all in this comparison. Topaz Labs Denoise AI. So we have the original RAW file again. We're going to do it the same exact way. File, plug in extras, and then we're going to find at the very bottom, process with Topaz Photo AI. And we're going to edit a copy. We don't want to overwrite the selected DNG. It's only saying that because this is a DNG file. If it was, let's say, a Nikon RAW file .nef, it wouldn't ask you this. So we'll just edit a copy. And the way Photo AI works is it has something called autopilot. It will examine the image and it will determine what is needed. And because it's a RAW file, it will automatically do raw noise reduction. That will get applied automatically. And I found that the raw denoise, as it is called, sometimes doesn't always work that well, but there's no way to delete it in this current version. You could see the updated thing is here. Now you could click on it and open it, and it has some options. You could see that you could either use the raw normal or raw strong, and you have a strength and minor to blur. Now this autopilot decided it needed raw normal with really strength and minor to blur settings relatively low. This has a lot of noise in it, so I'm going to go to raw strong, and I'm going to take strength up to, let's say, 56. You have to wait for it to render, so you can look down here at the progress bar. And then once it's updated, you can see there is still quite a bit of noise there. So let's just max out the strength. Again, I'm trying not to sacrifice any sharpness, but I do want to eliminate the noise. Now it looks pretty good. The noise is eliminated. I could just click on the image to get a before after. There's before, there's after, before after. It didn't seem to like blur the image at all or to soften the image at all. It just looks pretty good, just like that. So we're going to click close. And we're going to go down here and save to Adobe Lightroom Classic. And this will be our image from Photo AI. Now, again, in Photo AI, you have the options to sharpen the image. You have the option to crop it and then, enlarge it. So there's a lot of things you could do with Photo AI that's not really being covered in this video, but it is what it is. And I believe it's this end one right here. Yes, it has a -2 DNG as well. Again, we're going to rename this. We'll go to F2, and this was Photo AI. And we'll click OK. Now, go back to our original RAW file, which is right here. And you can see it has the noise, so it definitely is the original RAW file. And this one we're going to send to DxO's PureRAW 4. I did do a video where I compared PureRAW 4 to PureRAW 3. If you haven't seen that video, I have it linked in the description below this video. So you could check that out. PureRAW 4 generally is better, though. It is an improvement. Whether or not it's worth an upgrade, though, it's really up to you. So let's go and do the same exact way. Go up to File, Plug in Extras, and then down to DxO PureRAW 4. And you can see there's two different ways to send an image into DxO PureRAW 4. One way is process instantly. If you choose this method, a little box will pop up and allow you to change some settings, but you won't be able to see the image being processed, so you won't get a preview of the image. If you want to get a preview like we did with all the other apps, then you're going to want to choose this first choice, preview and process with DxO PureRAW 4. So that's one I'm going to choose. And then it will, again, it's going to open it up into DxO PureRAW 4. Then there's a lot of things you could do in PureRAW 4 as far as the file is concerned. Like you could do lens corrections and where you're going to save it. You could rename it. Now, one thing that trips a lot of people up is they don't realize when you open an image into it, it's not edited at all. You can see there's still a lot of noise up in here. To see the finished product, you have to go down here and click on Update. Then you'll see a progress bar, and then you'll see the noise is reduced. And you can see the before after with the slider. There's before, there's after, there's before, there's after. Now, a couple things about the different models. Technically, there's 3 different models. There's D prime, there's D prime XD, and D prime XD2. D prime XD2 is the latest technology, and from what I've seen, it's the best technology. So you're probably always going to want to use D prime XD2. Unfortunately, not all RAW files are compatible with D prime XD2. Some RAW files are not. For example, Fujifilm RAW files are not compatible with D prime XD2. And if I hover over here, you'll notice that the Fuji RAW file isn't either, although it's saying in the X-Tran RAW files are currently not supported D prime. So this is going to use D prime XD will be applied instead. So it's the previous technology is going to be used. Now, even though this is a Ricoh RAW file, it must use an X-Trans sensor. I didn't really realize that until I started sending Ricoh RAW files into DxO's PureRAW 4. So there's that. Now, you do have, there still is a little bit of noise there. If you open up this advanced section, you'll see there's a couple sliders here. We have the luminance noise reduction, then force details. That's where you're just trying to regain some of the details lost when you reduce the noise. Now, it's set at 40, and it's always set at 40. No matter what image I've sent in here, luminance is at 40 and force details is at 0. So what I typically do is it goes to 100. So I'll put it somewhere more in the middle and, between 40 and 100, not exactly, but somewhere. Then you have to go down here and click on update and let it do its thing. And it didn't really do much there. And I'll push this up higher and click update. And it's still looking pretty much the same to me. There's before, there's after. Maybe it's a little better. Let's just max it right out. And then click update. And it looks okay. And really with force details at 0, it doesn't look to be softened at all by the noise reduction. So I'm going to leave that as is. Now you do have a lot of options for optical corrections, and just for the heck of it, I'm going to leave everything on. So we're going to get rid of any lens softness, vignetting, chromatic aberration, and lens distortion. We're going to output it to a DNG file because, again, I want to preserve the RAW format throughout my workflow. I'm going to save it to the original image folder. I'm going to rename it in Lightroom. I'm not going to rename it here. Now, by default, with PureRAW 4, when you edit an image in it and you're using it as a Lightroom plugin, it's going to create a new collection, and it's going to put this image in that collection. I don't want it to do that. I want it to put it in the collection that I'm using for this video. So I'm going to click here, put inside a collection, go to this drop down, and it has all of my Lightroom collections here. And I have this noise reduction apps, and this is the Ricoh GR3X image. So I'm going to put that there and process now. So the key takeaway here is that D prime XD2 may not work on all RAW files. And I know from firsthand experience, it doesn't work on Fujifilm RAW files and Ricoh GR3X RAW files. So you're going to have to use the previous technology, XD, D prime XD, which still is good. It's just not quite as good, I guess, as the D prime XD2. So here we go. We have this. Let's rename it. So we'll go to F2. And this is PureRAW 4. Okay, there. All right. Now, let's go over to the develop module only because the develop module uses a better color space than the library module in Lightroom. Library module uses the sRGB color space. This uses the Adobe RGB color space. So it's a little better of an image, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Let's rearrange these. We have, let's put them in alphabetical order, so I'm not favoring one or another. This is the original RAW file. Next would be Lightroom, right? So Lightroom is there. That's good. The next would be, after Lightroom, would be Luminar Neo. Yeah, that's right. And then next would be NoNoise AI. That's it. The next would be Photo AI, and then PureRAW. And you can see how it kind of, the lens corrections kick on some of these. Some don't. You can see some are brighter, some are darker. So that's just the nature of the different apps we're using. Now, let's compare these, then I'll go over and we'll look at some of the other ones as well. But again, in the description below this video, I'll have a link to my website. You could download all of these raw files and look at them on your computer yourself and decide for yourself which one you like best. Also, for some of these companies, I have promo codes where you could save a few dollars if you're purchasing the app. So I have those listed where I have them available as well, where I have promo codes available. All right. What we're going to do is when I zoom in, I don't want it to jump around. So we need to lock the zoom position in Lightroom. To do that, go up to View and then down to Lock Zoom Position. Make sure that's turned on. And let's zoom into a place like right here. There's like a lot of noise and color and stuff. And here is Lightroom. And I noticed, remember I mentioned Lightroom doesn't do a good job on Ricoh raw files. Here is Luminar Neo. You can see there's a lot of artifacts there. Here is NoNoise AI, some artifacts as well. Here is Photo AI. This, to me, looks to be the best. We'll look at sharpness in a minute, but there's minimal artifacts compared to the others. And here is PureRAW 4, and actually PureRAW 4 might be the best. So let's zoom back out. Let's go back to the original raw file. Let's look at something that should be sharp, like this eye right here, which is probably the eye I focused on. And this is Lightroom. This is Luminar Neo. This is NoNoise AI 2024. This is Photo AI. And this is PureRAW 4. I think PureRAW 4, in my opinion, is the best, but you could disagree with me, of course. It's no free country, but that's my opinion. All right, let's look at the Fujifilm X-T4. This camera I used to own. I actually really like this camera, but I sold it. And let's zoom into a kind of a noisy area. Now, this one, the highest ISO I had on this camera was 6400. All the other ones had an ISO of 12,800. So this is the only one that's at 6400, but we have to deal with it. All right, so here is a nice noisy area. This is Lightroom. You can see Lightroom does a lot better of a job on the Fujifilm raw file than it did on the Ricoh raw file. This is Luminar Neo. This is NoNoise AI 2024. That looks really good. This is Photo AI, and you can see there's still a little noise in the Photo AI one. And here is PureRAW 4. You can see maybe there's a tiny bit of noise here. So we'll look at sharpness. I probably focus somewhere around there. There's the original raw file. There's Lightroom. There's Luminar Neo. There is NoNoise AI 2024. There is Photo AI. You can see a lot of luminance difference or brightness differences. And there is PureRAW 4. So I'll leave it for you to decide which one's better on that one. Let's go to the Nikon Z7 II. Again, these are all our cats. They're cheap models. I don't have to pay them much. And so here is the original raw file. And here is Lightroom. Lightroom did a great job on the Nikon raw file. Here is Luminar Neo. You can see a lot of artifacts there. Here is NoNoise AI. That did a great job. Here is Photo AI. A little bit of noise in the darker areas here. And here is PureRAW 4, and that did a great job as well. Let's check out sharpness. Come in here. Probably zoomed in a little bit too much. Let's zoom in a little less. All right. So here's the original raw file. Here is Lightroom Classic. Here is Luminar Neo. Here is NoNoise AI 2024. Here is Photo AI. And here is PureRAW 4. So they all look pretty sharp. And finally, let's finish it off with the Sony a7R IV. This is a camera I don't own anymore either. It's still a great camera though. Let's zoom in. I don't know, maybe right in here. We could see her eye, and we could see back in here. So here is Lightroom. That did a great job. Here is Luminar Neo. Could see some artifacts in there. Here is NoNoise AI. That did a great job. Here is Photo AI. Maybe a little bit of noise, a little bit of artifacts in there. And here is PureRAW 4, and that looks really good too. So And then we'll look at the sharpness. We'll see, this is Adrian's the cat. So we have 3 cats. We have Rocky and Adrian. Of course, those were named after the movie Rocky. Then we have Jonesy is the black cat. Jonesy is named after the cat in the movie Alien, and I think made a cameo in Aliens, but different color, but still, that's where he got his name. So there is the raw file. There is Lightroom. There is Luminar Neo. There is NoNoise AI. There is Photo AI. And finally, there is PureRAW 4. PureRAW 4 looks the sharpest to me, just glancing at them. But I'll let you decide. Again, you could download all these images and take a look at them yourself. And I'd like to thank everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.